Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we are looking at Sunday's games here, game fours, as these two series are tied up, but 2-1 each. We're starting here in the Western Conference. We got the Suns, who did lose that game 3 back in Dallas, to the Mavs, and they are looking to try to take things to 3-1 and probably close this in 5 if they can. Obviously, we'll take a look at some of the best bets. We got some player props in here for you as well. So make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page. Continue to follow along with us as we bring you each and every playoff game during these NBA postseason, as well as head to playpicks.com, where Nate is continuing to write up a storm for you guys. Best bets, player props, and the like. Also has some MLB action on there for you guys as the baseball season is underway as well. And as always, if you do still need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to ftpicks.com or dkpicks.com. Find those listings in your area, such as what we've got for Sunday's game fours. Nate, let's get into it.
Yeah, both teams rallied after going down 2-0. Different story for both teams as to how they were able to pull it out for sure. And now as we head to these game fours, Phoenix -1.5, Miami actually an underdog at +2, 2.5. Total is the same for the Suns game, about 215 after went under in the first game in Dallas. And then that total dropped a little bit out in Philly, 207 after a really, really awful offensive game. So looking at that one, but starting with the 3:30 game here in Dallas, I mean, Josh called it early when we were saying over in Phoenix. He said, we're not taking any overs yet, any unders yet until we go to Dallas. And sure enough, Dallas was able to dictate things, mostly able to dictate how they were going to guard the Suns. And that was the biggest difference, right? Just blitzing Chris Paul, getting the ball out of his hands, forcing him and Booker into 12 turnovers. The thing that worries me, if you're thinking Dallas is going to repeat, is that those guys still shot 50%, that the Suns still shot almost 45% as a team, and they still shot 46.5% from three. They out-rebounded the Mavericks by 9 again. The Mavs had a 3.1 assist-to-turnover ratio, only committing 8 turnovers. Their assist-to-turnover ratio was a little bit below 2 coming into that in the playoffs. Jalen Brunson did have his spike game with a 32% usage rate next to Luka. If that kind of falls to the wayside, though, I mean, Dallas, we've seen without a second option, is not going to be able to keep pace with this team. Reggie Bullock, great job on Chris Paul. We saw Jose Alvarado do a great job on Chris Paul. And what happened the next couple games? Basically didn't miss a shot. Or he didn't in the second.
He actually didn't, yeah.
in the final game there. So I think you ride with the Suns here in a bounce back situation. They're 16-4 straight up after a loss this season. There is a strong correlation that they do it with defense. 15-5 to the under after a loss by 8 points per game, and 7-2 to the under their last 9 playoff games after a loss. Mm-hmm. They had beaten the Mavs 11 straight before this one. I just think that they're still getting enough good shots to keep pace here. There is a case for the under as well, though, as we stay in Dallas. I mean, just some stark home road splits, especially in the playoffs. It's really come out in a smaller sample size. The Mavs have a 104 defensive rating at home versus 121 on the road. Their pace 3 possessions slower. They shoot 5 percentage points worse from 3. They get fewer free throws. They commit fewer turnovers and have a better rebound percentage. So all leading to those unders. They went 32-12 to the under at home this season, as we know. And the fourth quarter, while it was kind of a runaway train with the Suns, and we've been talking about that since their last series, is live bet that over because they don't miss in the fourth quarter. But they kind of, in Dallas, it slowed down a lot. It went to an 88 pace, which is actually slightly slower than it was in that Utah-Dallas series, where it was just unders all day as soon as Luka came back. And so if it's going to be that slow in Dallas against the Mavs team that allowed the fewest fourth quarter points per game, that slows it down on their end because they're playing everything through Luka, then I got to think you like the under here at 215. But I prefer the Suns first and foremost to take that 3-1 lead you're talking about.
Yeah, I think I feel that too. And I was initially thinking of some way to maybe bet a specific time period. I don't think it's about, the Suns coming out here hot in the beginning of this game. I think it is going to be a classic sort of Suns game where in the first half they're doing what they can, to really just pace and sort of keep a single digit lead, keep it close either way. I think that's been the case in this series. I was sort of thinking that this the fourth quarter Suns were going to sort of prevail and that they were going to have a chance, but that third quarter sort of blew things open for them in a way that they really couldn't crawl back after they're down at points, around 15 points or so. They crawl back to under 10, but that's about as close as they were getting when guys like Jalen Brunson, like you pointed out briefly, were doing their thing at home as you expect from those role players, as we mentioned, Reggie Bullock and Dorian Finney-Smith, both nice games in terms of the offense that they were able to put out. Obviously Kleber hit his shots as Dwight Powell continues to be unable to stay on the floor as he's really not bringing much value in the way of, playing big or playing defense well against Ayton, who, by the way, was got his rebounds at 11. I was something that I was really looking forward to in this one were his rebounds, as we thought was going to be a bit choppier, and that things, they were either going to take the ball out of Booker's hands or Paul's hands. You can't do both. Obviously, we know that, and it was Paul who still, to your point, had an efficient game. He was 5 for 9. It's just that he only had 4 assists and was only 5 for 9 because he wasn't able to do much after he was crossing half court and just getting, as you said, bum rushed by at least one other guy with 5 sets of eyes watching him the entire time. And Book, to his credit, he had those 6 assists. I think you might consider that this is the recipe that J-Kid is going to go with. We knew he was sort of experimenting in ways on defense and with his lineups. And I think he found something in the fact that, if Kleber is able to at least hold his own and get the help that he needed. I mean, obviously when someone like JaVale was on the court, or even DA at times, when JaVale was on the court, he was able to handle, JaVale fine. JaVale did well against Kleber, but my point is he wasn't a defensive liability no matter who was on the floor, especially because he was getting that help when Ayton got the ball, which limited his points. He was still able to get about 16, but it was a little bit less than you would expect from him as we talk about his ability to dominate the series. They took that ability away. Those were the two guys essentially that they said, we're not doing anything with. Mikal Bridges goes 5 for 14 in his own right, and he had plenty of good opportunities. He was the guy that was the beneficiary of the second pass after Chris Paul loses, has to pass it, the hockey assist, if you will. Then Booker, whomever getting the ball at the wing, had found Bridges with, a one-on-one opportunity. He had plenty of, pull-up mid-ranges. He had a couple of nice dunks and drives, but his efficiency needs to be better. They need him to be that third scorer. At this point in his career, it's not Jay Crowder in terms of that third scorer for them. And if Ayton is going to be, they're going to have all their eyes on Ayton, then I think, Bridges and Crowder are going to be the guys that need to do it. Crowder had a decent, a really good game last time, but that's not something that you expect consistently. And that cannot be your recipe for success, which the Mavs know. If they're going to get the ball into Crowder's hands, et cetera, then they're happy with that. And Bridges the same. So if those guys are able to come through a bit better, you don't expect that on the road, which is all leading once again to my favorite bet, honestly, still being an under. I almost like the Suns equally, just because I do think this is a game where it will remain close. They get to the fourth quarter, and that's where they take over. You expect a few things to regress, up and down in terms of Booker definitely doing better than 18 points. I don't think he can continue to have that performance in this game. And then as far as on the other side, Luka, 26 points, but not great shooting performance from he either. And it was good to see him be happy to let Brunson get his, maybe have Brunson earn some of the money that he may have been losing himself in those first 2 games as he looks for his contract next time. And I think you continue to think he's going to be hungry, continue that usage rate. He's playing for something as well, on top of a championship right now. And I think you continue to expect that for him in terms of his props, which do remain, I believe, still at about 20.5 for him in this one. I'm just double checking myself here. 19.5, even better, -105. So I continue to like Brunson as well in this game.
Yeah, and the Mavs, of course, playing for their playoff lives. Josh also mentioned bet that first quarter or first half line for these teams down 2-0, and both did come out strong. And in support of the under, I mean, Dallas in the clutch, basically the second best team next to Phoenix this year, especially at home after the All-Star break. They were 8-1 with the best net rating in the clutch and a 90 defensive rating. So that supports the idea that maybe they can hold down Phoenix down the stretch, keep this under. But if you say that's the plan for Jay Kidd going forward, if you're not going to change what you're doing against Chris Paul and Monty Williams, you're going to get burned. I mean, I don't know if that was just the card they were able to play and kind of surprise CP into some mistakes, or if they're going to be able to sustain that in some way. I think it'll be a mixed bag. I don't think that we'll see as many turnovers from Booker and CP at all. But I think they'll have some success forcing the Suns into some things they don't want to do. Like you said, scrambling to that third, fourth option who are not as reliable off the dribble. But yeah, I just see this as an outlier in terms of the Suns, the best net rate, the best clutch team we've seen, 10 assists, 9 turnovers in the second half, still in the game, basically, until late. Played maybe their worst game of the season, and they're still in it. So I'll take that. I'll take the team that has more depth, more options, more adjustments to make in terms of who does Monty want to bring off the bench. Whereas Kidd, we're all talking about, can he survive defensively with Kleba? Can he survive offensively with Powell? It's tough. And the under again is a good call because Luka, as good as he is offensively, he makes unders happen with his slow pace, with the fact that he gets the rest of his guys cold because they're not as empowered, and because it's just the way he plays the game. It just slows down, and it's a walking under. That's why Dallas has these numbers, especially at home.
Isn't that hilarious? He's like the most talented walking under on offense of all time. So a guy who could have a 35-point triple-double on any night against literally any team in any defense, and you still love unders. And that's also in part with J. Kidd's game plan, as we know, is he knows he doesn't have the offensive weapons around Luka to do that. He knows Luka can't get as tired as he definitely looked in game 2, as he was just getting put around, definitely taken advantage of because of how much he had to do on offense. And at least in part, I would say that's a huge reason for why he did give the ball up a bit more in this one and was happy to let other guys cook on offense. Still no sign of Spencer Dinwiddie in this series. This might be the way that he's able, this might be what he's capable of right now, especially against the Suns team, and how he's going to fit in when you have Luka. If you do like some player performance levels, and I did mention, I like Book to come back to his shooting ways and his scoring ways. 25 points in a victory for the Suns in this one for him. You're not often going to see a 25-point in a victory player performance level for Devin Booker this season. And it's at plus 178. So I would consider that if you're looking there for some props and some things of that nature in this one, as we kind of made clear, -2, for this spread, -1.5, depending on where you have it for Phoenix. The fact that we were able to get it down to that, even though they are on the road against a good at-home Dallas team, we're great with an under when it's Dallas at home, and we are also great with choosing the Phoenix Suns to come out and win any game at this point by 2 points or so. All right, the game, Nate, in the Eastern Conference here that we have for Sunday's matchups, game 4, as the 76ers got their big man back, and probably a big emotional and spiritual lift, if you will, from the masked Joel Embiid, who, wasn't dominating the game on offense the way he normally would. Also got hit in the head at one point by Bam. That was a little bit scary, just knowing that's obviously where his issues are. Totally unintentional, but it just took a quick spill. Actually came back from that and continued to play a little bit better on offense from there. Got a few more free throws, as we noted here, and we will, that in the second half he was a bit better. And so, I think, with this one, we now look at Philly, things being a bit turned because they're in Philly right now, and it is game 4, and the momentum took a bit of a swing, if you believe in that, from game to game. And, they come out, they're now -2 favorites in this one with a 207 total after we saw a complete lack of offense in this one on both sides of the floor. Great defense, I suppose. Definitely. I mean, I'm not going to discredit either team. And Philly did hit a butt ton of threes, actually shot a better percentage from 3 than they did from the field in this one. So, I don't know. Where do you start with what we have here? Obviously, there's some interesting stuff with the series prices as well. Maybe we look at those for a start.
Yeah, I start with the under again here because, you said it. Embiid did not necessarily have a huge impact, but the emotional lift that he provided, just knowing that we have a chance, like especially being ruled in so late before that game, to kind of surprise the Heat and give the Sixers a feeling that they weren't necessarily going down 3-0. And everybody else responded defensively. Miami has these kind of lapse games, especially on the road. It was very uncharacteristic, considering a 90 offensive rating when they were 114 in the playoffs overall. Defensive rating was 7 points higher. But the pace is what I would lean towards when saying, like, we got to take an under again here. 88.5 pace. And we talk about it with Luka. As great of an offensive player as he is, he gravitates the game towards a slow pace where you have to take every possession and throw the ball to him and see what he wants to do. And as Embiid gets more comfortable, that's going to be how the Sixers play more and more, especially in the fourth quarter, as we saw in the first round, really slowed it down against Toronto. Miami let up a few things that is uncharacteristic of this team in terms of 19 fast break points. But they're not getting anything easy either, really. 6 fast break points for them. Both teams only 28 points in the paint, as they both have been limited there. And you look at Miami's road numbers, 4 of their last 5 have gone under on the road. They have just a 106 offensive rating, 100 points per game, shooting 40% from the field, 32% from deep there. And there was a while there down the stretch where they were just hoping Max Strus could shoot them back into the game, and there was nothing else going. Jimmy Butler could not hit anything. Lowry kind of clogged things up, to be honest. I mean, it's his first game back in a while, and he's not the same kind of creator as Tyler Hero if the ball's in his hands more. Miami's offense really stagnated, I think, because Kyle Lowry was trying to dictate how things go from the top of the key there. So I think it will still take a little bit of time to adjust offensively, but I think the Heat defense will respond here as they typically do. After these kind of lull games, they come out, exert their will. And we've talked about how much Harden is going to struggle against this defense. Bam has done a pretty good job on Embiid. So I don't think the Sixers are necessarily going to have one of their home 110 plus performances here. I think both teams will be lucky to get over 100, and the winning team might just barely get over that.
Yeah, look, there's a couple of things in this one. I honestly don't know who's going to win Game 4. As soon as I saw Embiid back, it kind of felt like, oh man, there's no way they lose this game just on this like emotional high now. And honestly, I kind of thought there's no way this man should be playing in a basketball game, but I guess if he's got enough protective face with his Batman mask, then great. But that also leads me to think there's no way that 2 days later he should be playing in this game either, to be honest, as I don't know how much better you can get from being unable to look at your phone for a full week after the concussion because it's still too blinding to your eyes. I just can't see it 2 days later you being great, and then 4 days later being even better. So point being, I think that leads to this choppiness and this the continuing and that pace and the fact that Bam's done a pretty good job on Embiid. He guarded Embiid and kept him to what he did there in that game, which still a very good game by a lot of people's standards for Joel. But still, just only the 18 points, right, is not what you're looking for from him. So the 11 boards also shows he's still in this, and I think it's also about what Embiid did to Bam on the other side of the floor. Bam was dominating the series. Jimmy still had a good game in this last one, even though he only went 1 of 5 from 3. He was getting to the line 10 times, made 12 of 22 shots from the floor overall. So he dropped 33 and 9 boards in this one, which is what they needed from him, and he could tell. And they still only had 79 points, right? That's unreal that he had 33 of those 79, as Bam was just locked up by Embiid in this one. And that seems to be what some of the focus was, and why I think Embiid was like, I need to get out there because I can't watch Bam Adebayo average 24 points, 11 boards, and 5 assists or whatever in the playoffs against us anymore. And he had a plus 41 overall in the first 2 games. Did Bam. But Embiid guarded him for 50% of the time that they were both on the floor together. They were both on the floor about 75% of the time overall for that entire game. And when he was on Bam, we're talking about 3 points, 1 of 5 from the field, 2 turnovers, no assists. And that's huge. That Bam can't just walk into the paint, get what he wants. Jimmy was doing his thing, probably because Embiid wasn't even really playing as much of that sort of center field defense that he normally would be able to play as rim protector. He was like, I'm going to chase Bam around and make sure he doesn't get his. And that was a huge reason for this game being what it was, combined with the fact that Miami wasn't able to get open from 3, as there wasn't nearly as much in and out from guys like Jimmy and Bam able to play from the post and back their guys down. Even Kyle Lowry, they were putting in the post at times, nothing doing there for him to be able to get kickouts to Hero or Vincent or Strus, etc. So there's some issues for them. I think that this Game 4 is going to be pretty similar. You're going to expect some adjustments from Spo, and I don't know if he's going to stick with Lowry the 25 minutes that he played. Not that took Vincent out of the game, and actually he's been much better on defense, it seems, than Lowry. Obviously wasn't that in his first game back, where he still didn't look healthy enough. So I think the things I'm looking at in this game, to be clear, I haven't even talked about Harden yet, and everything I just said leads me to just like the under and like Philly, even though I'm not as confident in the total, because I am a bit scared of playoff Eric Spoelstra and what he might have cooked up in this game, because he has plenty of cards up his sleeve and plenty of guys on that top scoring bench in the league this year that he can bring off and play around with. I do like also after that Harden unders, continue to just slam Harden unders, as you know, he has now, I believe, failed to score 25 points in 22 of his last 23 playoff games. His prop at points is just at 19.5 right now. In his last 5 versus Miami, he had 17 last game. In his last 5 versus Miami, including last game, still averaging about 15.5 points a game, 6 boards, about 8.5 assists a game, still averaging about 36. That's all in his per 36s. So it's not like it's just brutal, right? His splits are at about worse than 40% from the field and worse than 30% from deep, only getting about 4 or 5 free throw attempts a game. On and on and on. There's no part. Everything I just said is what his game is predicated on. He can't do it anymore. He's not doing it, especially against his Heat team, and I don't expect him to continue to. They're going to only get lower, I think. 19.5 still feels like I'm good to hit under 20 points for James Harden. It's minus 120 for the under in this, for him to go under there. Oh, I'm sorry. No, that's still at even money. It's the minus 20.5 on FanDuel that is, minus 120, because they have it at 20.5, 1 point higher than DK. So however you feel about an under there, 19.5, if you go under on DK, you're talking about even money. I still feel good about those for Harden props.
Yeah, but that's the thing now that Embiid's back and Danny Green is shooting well. Harden doesn't need to score 20 plus. And at this stage in his career, that's the next step, right? Where he's just going to have to facilitate, keep the ball moving, and then occasionally attack the gaps when he gets them. He can't just break anybody down off the dribble. And thankfully they have Maxey to do that now. But I agree with you. Yeah, you want the under here. Plus 230 for the Sixers money line and the under, or plus 270 for Miami. But I kind of am leaning Sixers at home here to maintain that emotional lift. I think Embiid is only going to be better with another day off. And he kind of seemed to find it down the stretch there. In the fourth quarter, he was plus 11, 5 points in 6 minutes, had an and one there that, kind of made him feel like, okay, I can still do this right now. And yeah, Lowry clearly not healthy if he's going to have 0 points in 25 minutes. Nobody coming along with Jimmy, who's not used to that kind of role. You talk about Harden being more comfortable distributing. Jimmy's not like a 35% usage guy. The Heat are a spread it out guy. They're going to need more from Bam, who kind of, it was a shock for everybody. Like Embiid's in the lineup, and Bam was not able to do what he had done against those backups who are just food for him. So it's going to be gut check time. I think we're going to see a very intense game where we go under, and you can actually bet the money line with both teams at plus 270, plus 230. And as long as you go under, you're profiting. Just a thought.
Yeah, no, I 100% see that and agree with it. And yeah, the intensity of this game, there's not going to be a point that either team is just going. I mean, look, if Embiid is a bit better, I can't see it, and maybe he will be a bit better in terms of how he feels, and that'll bring about that offense, because as we've mentioned, I mean, they went 16 for 38 in this game from three, right? Shooting 48% from deep, or what have you. So, I mean, that is a complete correlation to Embiid being in the game, which we consistently talked about, which is they need him to sort of make that unbalance, create that imbalance on the offensive end for Philly, where the guys are scattering for Miami because there's double teams on Embiid that then leave other guys open that they know they need to get out on, like Max Strus, like Tyler Hero, and even Oladipo at times, who's still not really shooting it that well or fitting in super well with the offense. But we'll see if he's able to pick that up. But that is all the time we have for you in this one. Make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page. Continue to follow along with us as we bring you each and every playoff game during this NBA postseason. And until we see you next, happy betting.